Unpredictable things are already happening within the government and industry, which I think that your level of preparedness needs to slowly but surely rise for. Marine X back at it again, about to brew myself up. I think I'm going to do an Americano. So we're going to do 18 grams of coffee in. We will do 36 grams of drip coffee out. And we'll put in some equal amount of water as well. So I'm thinking about, what are things that are kind of slowly but surely making moves. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you guys about, which, hey, keep in mind your level of preparedness for any of these scenarios. And because I'm preparing my family for the same things as well. Number one, we got to talk about, I believe, the upcoming rise in unemployment and what that does to people. So Southwest Airlines is headquartered where I am here in Dallas, Texas. They just let go a little bit over 1,000, I think 1,200 employees from one place in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. This is the first time this company has ever done mass layoffs in this type of scenario, this type of just large scale numbers. And what is that directly related to? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if that's related to everything that's been going on with the airline industries and the crashes and just kind of like overall people feeling unsafe. Let's think about this. Like, we're seeing a lot more activities with the airlines. We're seeing a lot more activity when it comes to people maybe not wanting to take flights as much. Give me a second. So we're seeing like a lot of things that within the airlines industries, which I think could cause even more layoffs. First off, people are seeing documented more crashes throughout the North America, not just in the United States. Flights are taking off here and flipping upside in Canada, and flights crashing off the coast of California, whether they're military or civilian. And you got issues here in the States, especially with the flight that was incoming to DCA and all these emergency landings and planes being diverted. And people are seriously like rethinking their plans when it comes to things that they had coming up vacation wise. I think that airline industries are going to feel that. I think that the industry is going to feel the number of people who decide to drive or take the train versus getting onto a flight. And that is going to probably reflect in a number of layoffs that we see in the industry. The FAA just laid off hundreds of employees. We're already having a lot of issues with flight delays, flight safety. Hopefully they didn't lay off like safety inspectors, air traffic controllers. I'm hoping that's not a part of the numbers, but we're not told about that until after the fact, or we can interview the people or whatever. But the unemployment within that specific industry is something that could be a level of concern for us all. Just when it comes to flights and things that we're going to care about, and all those people now getting into the job market, all fighting for the same jobs. I think that that's something that we need to concern ourselves with. And it's not just the airline industries when it comes to the flights that we need to worry about, but it also includes the federal employees. Federal employees are being laid off left and right. Whatever your thoughts are on DOGE, whatever your thoughts are on the federal government, here's the thing that you have to think about. With the laying off of federal employees, that's gonna, this is the first time, at least in my memory, that the government has made more unemployment. I mean, name another time when the government created more unemployment than right now. So you're releasing federal employees who, a lot of them are highly qualified and possess a lot of skills. They have, so only about 28 to 30% of the nation contains bachelor degrees. A high percentage of federal employees have bachelor degrees, and they also have years of experience. About 30%, I think roughly, don't quote me on that, of the federal government are veterans. So you got a lot of competitive aspects to government employees who are being released. And it's like, you're about to put all these people into the job market, making it more competitive for other people that are already out there. I think that's a big thing. Unemployment, I think, is something that we need to think about, is the airline industry, federal government employees. And then just other industries that are going to be laying people off. There are some industries that 100% are kind of recession proof. Okay. There's some things you can't buy online. Amazon is a monster, but you can't get a haircut online. You can't get your nails done online. That type of stuff is kind of safe every now and again versus other things. But people will cut back on those things if they start to feel the pain. But another big thing to think about, so we got the espresso part of the coffee done. You can see that looking pretty good. Let's get the water part going here in a second. People will make those cutbacks, but as unemployment rises and people start to compete, you're going to have peoples in some households deliberately take jobs that offer them less pay, start to purposely not pay certain bills. I can say for you, when it comes to you personally in a mindset of prep or whatever, if you are the type of person that could be a target of layoffs because you're a government employee or you're an affected industry around that, keep your ducks in a row. Time to update your resumes. Time to possibly get yourself for the first time used to doing a blue collar job instead of a white collar job. Might be time for you to get out there and just do whatever you need to do for those level of survivals. I think that kind of goes without being said. But the thing I'm more concerned about with the rising level of unemployment is that sometimes that could also increase crime and increase people's desperation to take care of their families. I know for me personally, if I were to be laid off from my job for whatever reason, and it got to that point, I know that my wife, if need be, she would hit the stripper pole. And if need be, I would be out there pushing carts if I had to make it happen. I'm not the type of person that's a criminal. But there's some people who have my type of mentality who are willing to go further. If they need to home invade, sell drugs, do illegal activities that can surround you, you need to think about that. You need to prepare yourself for the fact that there could be a rise in nonviolent and violent crime surrounded by a higher level of unemployment. Let's use Chicago for an example. One thing that I've always said, there's my Americano, looking pretty delicioso, if I say so myself. One thing I've always kind of said in regards to Chicago, Detroit, places like that, a lot of times in the news we hear they have such high gun crime, gun laws don't work. But this Americano works. We hear that type of language all the time. But what's the number one driver for the crime level in some of those cities? I don't know if it's number one, but it could be high on the list, is lack of jobs. I think that if you pump a city, I think it's the second or third largest city in America, millions of people there. If there are not enough jobs for people, for youth, a lot of people end up finding themselves in the streets. So, look at the number of available jobs in Detroit and Chicago versus the number of young men who are without, and they just end up joining gangs and doing stupid shit. That's true for the city I'm from, which is Cleveland as well. So lack of jobs, I believe, drive unemployment. Keep yourselves. I think that your stockpile of ammo and your security measures around your house, just make sure you have situational awareness when you're out and about, when you're going to throw something in your trunk. If you're going to get into your vehicle, always pay attention. Don't walk around with headphones or earbuds on when you're going on a walk or whatever. Just have a higher level of situational awareness, especially as unemployment continues to rise. Give me a sip. Next, we have got to talk about Doge and their requested access to two places that draw pause for me. First off, I'm all about cutting fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. The self-reported numbers that Doge has, I'm happy that they're finding this type of stuff. And if it's true, kudos on you. If you're finding this type of stuff, you're saving this money, that's great. But they've requested access to IRS tax information for individuals and Social Security Administration data for individuals. So they want IRS tax data for individuals and corporations, Social Security Administration data for individuals. They say they want to know how many people are still getting cut Social Security checks, which are dead. That's a thing I want to know too. I want to know, I don't know who the hell audits the Social Security Administration. I don't know if it's their IG, if it's some other agency, I don't know. But they want to know, are we paying billions of dollars perhaps to people who are dead or no longer rate Social Security checks. I think we pay over $1 trillion in Social Security benefits. And so if we're mispaying that, if we're overpaying that, if we're whatever, that should be something that's discovered. That's number one. Number two, for IRS data, I have no clue why they're requesting information for tax information. I don't know if they're trying to figure out if people worked multiple jobs that are government employees. I think that's one thing I've heard about before, where DOJ has said, if they find out you're a government employee and you submitted 2 W-2s in the same year for jobs, maybe that can put you a target on your back. But that's kind of a lot to ask for, because a government employee can also push carts at Target at night. They could also be a bartender at a strip club. They can do a lot of stuff where they get more than 1 W-2 in a year. So I'm not really sure if they're trying to figure out what's the reason for that, but they're also targeting up to 15,000 IRS employees to be yeeted up out of the government. I'm concerned about my personal data. Last video that I did when it came to ensuring that your personal data, that was sponsored by Aura. This one's not sponsored by Aura, but I still use Aura, and I'm not making this a sponsor segment. I'm just telling you, I highly worry about my data and the other 6 members of this household's data. That's why I have everybody registered with Aura, so if we can get credit alerts, if anybody tries to access our information. I don't like the fact that I'm not 100%, I don't know exactly why they need the data. I like the fact that they're looking for fraud, waste, and abuse, but admittedly from Elon Musk himself, he's gonna make some mistakes, and every now and again, things that he say won't be true. I don't like that shit. That's just not something that makes me feel good about somebody that's quasi a government employee, is a government employee. Maybe I'm mistaken. I think that for me personally, if I could just have a little bit more transparency about why this data is needed. So for yourself, I think you should try to protect your data and your information through some type of online protection services. I mentioned I use Aura. I'll link them down below. So if you want to try a free trial, you can try that out. You can look at one of their competitors. You can just monitor your own credit, vigilantly every month through the credit bureaus, whatever. I think that you should take a look at that. See if anybody's opening new accounts in your name, if anybody's submitting tax records in your name, if somebody's trying to divert checks that should be going to you over to them. If any of that type of stuff, you should really pay attention to. So rising level of unemployment, which could correlate to the job market being harder to find a job, and rising levels of violence. I think those are 2 things you need to be vigilant about. The rising, harder to find a job, that's not really a SHTF situation, but the violence part, when people have less jobs, I think that is. And then the second one, your data and access for it. I don't know why a court would block DOJ's access for it. The president has commissioned DOJ, and as long as what they're doing is not illegal and they have the proper clearances, I guess they should get access. I don't see why they wouldn't get access. But they've already shown a propensity to be haphazard with information. Look what happened with the National Reconnaissance Agency, I believe it's what it's called, when they released all that information about the number of, I don't know if it was the number of force they were allowed or the number of employees they had or the location of our silos or whatever. But all that stuff got put on Doge.gov. Ew, that's disgusting. So imagine some 19-year-old, 24-year-old, whoever you're getting information to the Social Security Administration or to the IRS, and them rightfully trying to figure out what's going on with the data, however they are, and then they post the shit on Doge.gov. That's just disgusting to me. Like, it just, ugh. I don't even like the sound of it. I don't even like the thought of it. And because I don't like the thought of it, I am going to protect myself. There's other things that I think that could be rising on the horizon. We'll talk about those in future videos, but this is already starting, guys. Court cases have already came back. Judges have already given them access to some data. Why wouldn't they get more access? So until we know more, protect yourself. CYA. First time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you a part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.